What if I told you that you actually should work less to make more money? It sounds crazy, right? After working with multiple 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs, I identified a pattern that sets them apart from everyone in today's hyper-competitive playing field. And it's the reason this entrepreneur was able to get to 13.7 million a year. Okay, but why you should listen to me? I mean, you probably shouldn't. I'm just some random guy on the internet with a question about Airbnb in Bali. But the simple truth is, I tried both ways of working. One way made me unfulfilled, burnout, and broke, and the other made me fulfilled, more productive, and just more money in general.
But to start, we have to go back a few years and explain what was the meta back then, which is the most effective tactic available. Back then, you created a great product, ran ads to it, and just made money. The business owner was mostly the builder guy. But more people entered into the space, some of them were scammers scammed a few people stopped trusting ads, and business owners selling info products, so the prices of the ads went up, profit margins went down, and practically it was no longer worth it to run ads to info products. One example of this era was Sam Owens, who famously said that you should just have the best product, and creating content is just a vehicle for the ego, and you shouldn't bother with that because it's a distraction. Funnily, he ended up becoming famous actually because of content. But at his peak, he was making 30 million. But he said that he wasn't making any money from this because there was no profit at all. The ads became so expensive that he was just making the exact same money as he was spending. Let me repeat this again. He was making 30 million and making no money. This obviously happens because as time goes on, the ads go to more colder and colder audience that fits the audience description less and less, and those audiences are less and less likely to buy, and because they are less and less likely to buy, the click per acquisition goes up, and over time it goes up so much that the business is no longer profitable. So naturally a new type of entrepreneur emerged, one that used content and sharing stuff freely online. Because he was aware that trust is at an all-time low, he just shared everything that he knows completely for free. This built trust with the audience, and the more trust he built, the more money he ended up making. So this was the start of the content-first businesses, where entrepreneurs shared what they know, and just because they shared that online for free, practically they were able to sign clients. Software companies shared their process of building their business online, and while they were doing it, they were practically building in public, and because of that, they got their first customers already. However, this brought with itself a new type of way of work. It was no longer about hustling and putting in as many hours, but rather creating unique ideas, thinking, developing your taste, because in this new era, your creativity and taste and judgment became so much more important than it once was.
You thought of someone making $730K per month, how long would you guess they are working?
Last year, I made $800,000.
Most would guess 12 to 14 hours a day. I'm doing the complete opposite.
Writing for 2 hours a day.
I'm currently on pace to do $9 million a year and only work 4 hours a day.
It's not the hardest worker that stands out in the attention economy, but rather the most unique individual.
I think the most successful entrepreneurs are extremely authentic to who they are and what they uniquely can do, and as such, they don't really operate in competition.
Okay, but let's stop for a moment and talk about the elephant in the room. Is working all day and working super hard bad? The truth is that it's not bad, however it's counterintuitive. If the way we measure productivity is outputs and not inputs, that means that leverage equals productivity. And that means that if we do something right, we can have a 1000x output instead of a 10x output. So we have to obsess over quality and obsessing over the highest leverage tasks. And remember, for this type of task, quality is crucial. So if you half-ass something or only do mediocre job, then you get a 0.1% return instead of a 100% return, aka you being extremely unproductive. But fuck it, let me give you a personal example because these are just numbers and I get it, it doesn't make much sense. So a year ago when I was building my lead generation business, I had this one day I clearly remember. I was so productive that day. I literally woke up in time super early, was working all day, set up systems for business, build out stuff, and I spent the afternoon creating a YouTube video. I literally went from ideating to scripting, recording, editing, thumbnail, uploading. I literally did everything under one day. And I uploaded it and went to bed and was so proud. I'm like, fuck yes, I'm making so much progress and I'm doing so good. And then the next morning I woke up and I see that the video completely flopped. Like it was the worst performing video on my channel. A realization really hit me because I actually realized that while I felt very productive, like I was working all day, it was feeling good to make progress. The progress I was making was so many different things and so fast and quick that while it felt productive, it ended up being not productive because I did a bad job. So while I felt productive, I got a 0.1% output for my time. aka I was super unproductive that day. But I felt super good about myself because I was working all day. I hope you guys get this. So by working all day probably makes you feel good and productive in the attention and leverage economy, it will probably just leave you broke.
So what do I believe is the answer? It's optimizing for judgment. In the age of leverage, the quality of your decisions matter a lot more, and optimizing for judgment is the highest productivity thing you can do. The entrepreneur I was referring at the beginning of the video was Matt Gray. Matt Gray only works 4 hours while making 13.7 million a year. He has a fulfilling life and business, does fun stuff, travels around the world. He doesn't work 4 hours because he believes work is toxic or because he just doesn't want it bad enough. He works 4 hours because he understands that in order for him to be the most productive in those 4 hours that when he works, he has to make high leverage decisions, aka have good judgment. And for that, he practically needs to develop his ideas. He needs to think a lot alone. He has to be alone and be with his thoughts, so when he works, he can be the sharpest and best. He works like a lion instead of a cow. And after studying him and looking at other successful entrepreneurs, also looking at my network, and also looking at how I usually operate and what works best for me, I identified 3 principles that I want to live by from now on. Principle number 1. Honestly, I haven't been doing this one a lot, and this is where I can improve the most right now, and probably you guys too. I've been on Twitter lately a lot. I have been watching YouTube videos. I've been always listening to some podcasts, having some input in my mind, because I look at those things as productive use of my time. If I go on a walk and I listen to a podcast during it, then the time is just being spent more productively. Or when I'm in the gym and I listen to a podcast, that's just more productive than, I don't know, listening to music or just not doing anything. And the problem that started to happen is I practically stopped having unique ideas, and the creators I followed, their thoughts became my thoughts. And it's not that anything is bad with content consumption in general. If you consume good content, then it can generally be helpful in you in business, obviously. But the problem comes when you are practically always in this plugged in consuming mode of like just consuming, and you never take a step back to think like, are these even your thoughts that you believe? Is the beliefs you hold your beliefs, or the beliefs that the people you surround with believes? That was exactly what happened with me. I practically stopped having unique ideas and unique thoughts, and I practically was just in this mode of like following and doing the same stuff as the creators I was following doing. I wanted the same things, I believed the same things, and it became pretty toxic after a while. Principle number 1 that I want to follow is just spend more time alone, thinking and not being stimulated. Practically how I measure success here is, am I bored on a daily basis? Because if I am, that means I let my mind think and I let myself come up with unique creative ideas that will help make the content better. So everything comes here from doing nothing, to going on walks, to writing, to literally doing any not work-related activities, so your brain can ruminate in the background and come up with high-quality solutions to the problems you face on a daily basis. And I think this first point is really painful to do. Like, we just don't like to be bored, and it's like, it's so easy to justify just learning. But it's like at the end of the day, just the dopamine part of it that we crave so much. It's not even that we need the new information, we just crave dopamine really. So principle number 1 is to just spend more time alone and spend more time with your thoughts, thinking and developing your ideas, aka just be bored and have creative sessions with yourself. Principle number 2, in a world where everyone has infinite leverage, your taste is what sets you apart, and it's your unfair advantage. But what is taste? How do you define it, and how do you even use it in business? Probably you heard it from people like Rick Rubin or more in the creative spaces that there is this thing called taste. But what is it even? And how do you apply it to your business to make more money? Let's imagine you try a food. You taste it, and either you say you like it or you don't like it. You don't second guess yourself if maybe I like it, maybe no. You are just like know instantly if you like it or not like it. The truth is we are kind of like this with everything. We can look at something and say if we enjoy it or don't enjoy it, or like it or don't like it. And practically that's our taste. That's our judgment towards what we like and what we dislike. Maybe you watch YouTube videos and some creators who's like a more upbeat, fast tone, and maybe some creators have a more chilled, slow, educating type voice. And you maybe be like, oh, I like this one better. So there are all these micro decisions that you choose unconsciously on a daily basis, and you decide, oh, I like this one, I don't like this one, I like this one. But we never really make it conscious on a daily basis. I personally, in my laptop, has this notepad called Inspirations, and I just practically collect everything there which I found interesting and I like. When I see a VSL structure, or a nice design on a website, or when I see this CTA button and it has the perfect copy, I'm like, oh, I just love it. And I just grab it and put it into my inspiration folder. And the thing with taste is there is no right or wrong. When you taste the food and you say you like it or don't like it, it's both subjective. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. It's just what you personally prefer. So principle number 2 is work on your judgment and your taste. Because in an age of infinite leverage, this is the only variable that sets you apart from everyone else. Principle number 3. This one is especially close to my heart, and this one I just ultimately love, and like people I think don't talk about this one enough. And it's a mindset shift you have to make towards the work you put out and the things you create in the online world. Because the truth is that most of you and most of the mentality that's going on out there is usually just like, done is better than perfect. You just should put stuff out and just make. Something will go viral accidentally. And that's just not true. Like, if you will just make mediocre, bad, low quality stuff, your stuff is practically invisible on the internet. And that's practically your representation. The work that you put out to the internet that's your digital footprint, your digital representation of you. So do you want to represent yourself by just like the shittiest landing page and the shittiest, videos and the shittiest YouTube editing? Steve Jobs had this saying that be a yardstick for quality. Some people are not used to excellence in the work environments. And I was just like, wow. Like, he says that directly to business owners. And I was like, fuck, that's so true. Like, most people are generally just make something, throw that out there and don't think about it. And why the advice that just like done better is perfect is true, and there is some truth to it when we are talking about some not that important stuff in your life. But when you are talking about the main thing, when it's about the main thing, you want to obsess to make the main thing as good as possible. Why would you settle for mediocrity when it comes to the main thing? You should only strive for excellence, obsess over quality, and make sure the stuff that you do, the stuff that you put out, that's the highest quality and the highest quality you demand of yourself, and that it's actually something that makes you proud at the end of the day and you want to put your stamp on it, saying, this is what I made. So yeah, I believe the whole entrepreneurship space are changing, and these 3 things, which is obsessing over quality, focusing on your taste and judgment, and most importantly, just spending time thinking and being bored and not being just locked in working, is the thing that can set you apart in today's very competitive landscape. So if you enjoyed this video, I have another video very similar to it where I break down why monk mode can be very inefficient for you as a business owner and how it can actually make you broke. And what I learned from being in monk mode for a long period of time. It's kind of like a part 1 or just an extension of this video. So I highly recommend checking that video out right here. See you there.